What is going on, everybody? I'm working and I just got to make this video. And like I said, I'm going to be doing more videos where I highlight abortion, pro-choice, pro-life, arguments, perspectives, and just throwing my opinion. And of course, I'll always have information, articles, data, journals, research in the description box below. And I always encourage you to do your own independent investigation, research, look at articles, look at journals, look at peer reviews, look at literature reviews, okay? There's different websites you can look at. Data and information is out there. So please, please, please be a critical thinker. So, a part of some of the work that I do is around financial counseling, coaching, information on financial literacy. And it really got me thinking about stuff, right? So what I've seen in my experiences over the past 7 months, I'm in these counseling sessions, right? We're teaching financial literacy. We're doing soft pulls on credit reports. We're looking at budgets and savings. And there's a common characteristic here. And this is why when we talk about reproductive health, reproductive justice, pro-life versus pro-choice, pro-choice versus pro-life, pro-abortion, bodily autonomy, sexism, misogyny, parenting, so many things come into play. Classism, so many things come into play. And again, information is in the description box below. But we got to talk about this. One of the common things that I am seeing, right, is you will have a woman, okay, a perceived to be cisgendered woman. She has children. She has a full-time job. In many cases, not only does she have a full-time job, but she has a part-time job or is looking for a part-time job or has a side hustle, or at their current job, they're working well over 40 hours a week, right, to make ends meet. On average, most of the women that we've counseled, right, for financial counseling, coaching, financial literacy, what have you, they work their asses off, right? And they could be making a decent monthly income, but when you calculate the current cost of living, inflation, high rent costs, and then since we're talking about it, a lot of these women have children. And obviously it takes two to make a child. So you have to sit back and wonder, everybody wants to argue about being pro-life, pro-choice, abortionist, and da-da-da-da. But in all of these situations, where is the father? Where is the cisgendered man that helped create these children? And why is it that in damn near every situation, the woman is pretty much left to take care of that child or those children by herself, or if she does receive assistance, it's through the state, it's through the government, aka it's through our tax dollars. So we're paying for people's children because these cis men are not being held accountable and being responsible for their own children. But yet, in the same breath, we're going to force somebody to give birth, yet the person that helped create the unwanted child isn't going to be held liable, responsible, accountable for providing and protecting and being a, full-time parent. No, we're not going to question that, but we just going to leave the person that gave birth, right, You don't have any body autonomy. We don't want you getting an abortion. We don't even want you to have access to birth control, because let's be honest, this is an attack across the board. They don't want you to have birth control. They don't want you to have condoms. They don't want you to have birth control pills, IUDs, Plan B pills. They make it so, and that's another thing. They don't want you to have abortions, but then they make it so difficult for people who have vaginas and ovaries, including cisgendered women. They make it so difficult for people who have vaginas and ovaries to get hysterectomies. I mean, literally, they will tell you, oh, well, you're too young. You might want to give it time. Well, you're not married. Are you sure? Well, how about you? And if they do let you get birth control, right? Because that's a privilege in itself. If they do allow you to get birth control, they will push birth control before allowing you to get a hysterectomy, despite the fact that you are a full adult making a choice and a decision for your health and well-being on your body, and yet you will have medical professionals, doctors, primary care physicians, etc., who will literally do everything in their power to deny you of getting a hysterectomy. But then in the same breath, it's going to force you to have a child that you don't want. That don't make any sense. But anyways, that's a whole nother piece. Back to the point. These women are working full time. A lot of times they got 2 and 3 jobs, side hustles, or they're working major overtime. Like, we had one client that straight up did 65 hours per week. It is what it is. And when you look at their income, and this particular client that we just met with today, the client makes what? $4,000 a month, which, you times 4 by 12, because there's 12 months in a year to get your annual income. The client makes $25 an hour, and on average works anywhere between 40 to 50 hours a week. So we did the low end, the mid-level, so the low end 40 hours, the mid-level 45, and the high hours at 50 hours a week, times that by $25, and this is before any taxes or deductions are removed. So the client's gross annual income is $48,000, and that's just from that particular job. Keep in mind, the client has roughly an additional $9.5 thousand that they're receiving from other sources of income that they get. So they're really at $54,000 a year, which, if you're single, you have no kids, you could get by. You could actually do something, right? I mean, because being in full transparency, the client makes annually, if we're going based off of gross annual income, the client makes $14,000 more than I do. But despite making that money, doesn't really matter, because the client has 3 children and is the full-time custodial parent. And it's, their rent is $1,200 a month with 3 kids. So that $4,000 after taxes is getting ate up, obviously. And this is a common situation where the reason why these cis women are unable or have difficulty getting towards financial stability is because of the children. I mean, it is what it is. I don't care how you try to twist and turn it. When you are having additional dependents, additional humans that you are responsible for, That is timely and costly, and it will deplete your income. It will deplete your income. Umar Johnson style. It will deplete your income. And once again, where is the cisgendered man that helped create these kids? And why is it always okay for them to abort their kids and not be parents and act like they don't exist and or pick and choose when they want to be there for their child? But yet we'll turn around and force cis women, trans men, trans masculine, gender fluid, gender queer, anybody that has a vagina and ovaries. We will force us to give birth, but we won't hold the cis man who is likely the one that helped create this unwanted child. They're not accountable for shit. And then you got to chase after them to get child support. And they don't want to pay child support because they don't want to take care of their kids and they don't want to be responsible for their kids. It is what it is. And then those that are paying child support, it's based off of their income. So they typically take about a quarter of your income. Okay? So about 25% of your income is going to go towards that child for child support based off of your income. Caveat, based off of their income. So if a client is making $1,200, a client is making $2,400 a month, and they're getting 25% of that, right? And this is why I'm really big on this, because I don't think people get it, because people always want to talk about, but child support, especially when you hear cis men. And again, you need to hear everybody's perspectives, right? You need to hear what cis men are saying about child support, what they're saying about birth control, what they're saying about abortion, what they're saying about parenthood, what they're saying about their relationships that they have with their children, with their significant others, with the people that they're attracted to. You need to hear these perspectives. A lot of cisgendered men complain about how expensive child support is, how it's controlling and vindictive, and you only put me on child support because I don't want to be with you in a relationship, which brings me to my next point. Another reason why I'm pro-choice. Why should you be creating children with somebody that you don't want to be with? Make it make sense. That's all I'm saying. And this is something that cis men really need to get in control of, because you're the one having unprotected sex, ejaculating in every hole and crevice, and then complaining when people put you on child support when you didn't have to be a father in the first place. You could have got a vasectomy. You could have wore a condom. You could have bought her a plan B. You could have made sure that she or the person that has a vagina that you're having sex with is on birth control. Y'all put yourselves in these situations to be on child support and then want to complain about it. I'm just being real. Okay, but anyways, so you don't want to be with the person, right? And you're mad that the person put you on child support. And in many cases, some of those cases can be because they're bitter, because they're mad, because they're jealous, because they're angry, because they're vindictive, and they got a grudge against you, and they're trying to prove a point. That can well be the truth in some cases. But that is not the case in every single child support case, and we all know that. And then, again, it's based off of your income, and they're only taking 25% of your income. So a lot of times there's this misconception that, the women or the people that have other folks on child support are somehow living rich on the hog. And that's a very big misconception, because it's based off of the other parent's income. So unless you're dating somebody that's, upper class, wealthy, rich, is making at least six figures or more, you're not going to be living high off the hog on child support. Okay, you're just not. And then again, in my area, in my location, you're lucky to get a job that's paying $10, $11 an hour. So 25% of that ain't shit. And we all know good and well it costs a lot to take care of a child. Okay? We talking daycares. You got daycare that's $500 and up a week. $500 plus a week. And we just talking about daycare. Let's not talk about shoes, clothes, food, shelter, water, healthcare. There's so many things that come into play when it comes to raising a child. And y'all sitting up complaining when some of y'all only paying $100, $200, $300 a month. And that ain't shit. Because again, it's based off of your income. Okay? And again, that ain't no money when it comes to taking care of a child. A human being. And we all know that. Okay? And also, in defense of people who are on child support, in defense of cisgendered men, I'll also add, if this country is so pro-life, right? Because everybody's pro-life and we got to save the children and whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop, and we got to save the sanctity of marriage and whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. We got to make sure that we protect the family unit, the nuclear family unit, whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. But in the same breath, you don't pay people living wages. So a lot of these folks that are on child support, and particularly these cis men, they're literally working at places that's paying them poverty pay, which is why they can only pay $100, $200, $300 a month. They would be able to do more for their children if they were actually being paid a living wage. Also, if we're all about pro-life, wouldn't we have universal child care by now so parents don't have to be sitting up literally spending half of their check or their complete income on daycare, on babysitters, on, why don't we have universal daycare, universal pre-K, preschool, daycare, kindergarten? Why aren't we investing in that? But we're supposed to be pro-life. Right. Okay. So, and luckily with this client that we worked with today, she has a plan. Her credit score is pretty decent. She has a nice amount of money saved. And she is working full time. She's in school. Okay. She's handling her business. She's looking at getting another job, preferably online, work from home, because again, she wants to make additional income so she can pay off some more debt. But of course, in order to get, the reason why she wants the job to be work from home is so she doesn't have to fork out additional money for childcare because she has 3 kids. And again, where in the hell are the dads? Again, how come the dad can't watch his children some damn times? How come the dad isn't assisting with the child care? How come he's not paying for the daycare? I'm just being real. Like, where are these cis men? And that's my whole point. It's all about, we're going to force you to give birth, but there's no protocols to actually ensure that, okay, if we're going to ban abortion, we're going to force a person to give birth to a child that they don't want, unplanned pregnancy, forced birth. But then when the child is here, there's no protocol to actually make sure that child is taken care of and provided for. And then honestly, if we're really all about the family unit and blah, blah, you should also want to make sure that the person that's giving birth is taken care of. Right? But that's not what happens in the USA. That's not what happens in this country. That's not what happens in this world. Oftentimes, it is cisgendered women, people with vaginas, the person that's giving birth is typically the one that's left responsible for the upbringing the rearing and raising of that child. And even when the person that's giving birth is in a committed relationship, especially if it's with a cisgendered man, even in a committed relationship, they're still considered single parents because they don't have actual partners that are helping them raise the child. We see the unfair situations every day where women in particular, but again, being inclusive and acknowledging that cis women are not the only ones that are in this situation. But women are the ones carrying all the weight. They're cooking, they're cleaning, they're giving emotional labor for the child, for their partner, they're working. They're doing all of this, and meanwhile, their so-called partner is basically not doing shit. Oh, I'm tired. I don't have time. I gotta work. And when I get off work, meanwhile, she works too. She doesn't get to use all those whack-ass excuses that a lot of you cis men give. I'm just gonna be real. She doesn't get to sit up and say, oh, well, I got off work. I'm tired. I don't got time for it. No, she gets off work, and guess what? She's checking in for second shift. And second shift is coming home and cleaning the house, getting food ready, getting clothes together, getting everybody ready for the next day, helping people with homework, etc., and then listening to some whack-ass partner that doesn't want to carry their weight. I'm just being real. So that's just one of the many videos that I'm going to do, right? There's a lot of economical disadvantages to having children in this society. There's a lot of health disadvantages to having children in this society. Because again, we live in a capitalist society that hasn't increased the minimum wage since 2009. The federal minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour, 13 years later. The cost of living has skyrocketed. Inflation is at 8.5%. And in many cases, it's at 9-10%, depending on where you're at. Okay. Our wages are low, stagnant, haven't gone up. And then again, on average, the people that are likely to give birth are marginalized. Okay, so if it's a cis woman, sexism and misogyny, women on average are still making around 20 to 25 cents less per hour than their male counterparts. And then that's pertaining to white women. Once you break it down and you start looking at Black women, Hispanic and Latino women, Native American, Indigenous, Pacific Islander women, when you break it down by race, you'll notice it's even more of a disparity between how much money women of color are making in comparison to their male counterparts. Okay, like it's bad. So like, okay, so we're going to force you to give birth, but then we're also going to systematically not pay you your worth because you're a woman. And then because of capitalism and, greed, we're also still not going to pay you your worth because we only care about making a profit. We don't care about you making a living wage and being able to take care of yourself and your family. So like there's so many, and then like the health disadvantages. People have said that giving birth is the closest thing to death. And people have literally died. People are dying giving birth, okay? Not to mention that people are finding out that their child is breached, the child is stillborn, the child is stuck in one of their fallopian tubes. It's all kinds of shit that's happening. People are losing their teeth. Oh my God, so many things. People are learning that they're diabetic, gestational diabetes. So many things are happening in order to give birth. And you're going to force people to do something like that. You're going to force them to be economically disadvantaged, more than likely living check to check, impoverished. We have high poverty rates for children in the USA right now. But yet, y'all want to sit up and talk about pro-life, but yet you got children that are alive currently living in poverty. Make it make sense.